Good evening. It is absolutely terrific to be here and an extraordinary privilege to be part of your celebration and part of this gala dinner for the Heart of Australia. I do want to acknowledge a few people first. I want to acknowledge Dr. Rolf Gomes and his wife Kylie. I want to acknowledge the Federal Assistant Minister to the Attorney-General, Senator the Honourable Amanda Stoker, a terrific friend and colleague, an inspiration to me in the Senate. Also to Gerard Rennick and his wife Lauren, also great friends to me. We also have Deb Frecklington, State Member for Nanango, and her terrific husband Jason, State Member for Moggill, Dr. Rowan, the Goondiwindi Regional Council Mayor, the Honourable Lawrence Springborg, and I want to acknowledge Linda, who's such terrific support to him, and Councillor Paul McVeigh, as well as Dr. Georgina Davis. The reason why I've made a point of mentioning some of the partners of our special guests is because everything in life you can only achieve with the support of those people around you. Dr. Gomes has made a point of mentioning his team, and we're all part of a team in some way or another, but those partners have certainly allowed those people to contribute and to be the great advocates they are. I want to acknowledge Isabella. What a terrific voice. I was thrown out of the school choir as a very young person, so grateful somebody has that terrific gift. And to all the sponsors, what an extraordinary decision. I know as business operators you are asked to give deeply, regularly, but to recognise the importance of the work that Dr. Gomes, his vision, the work of his team and the Heart of Australia, I think you are also visionaries to do that. So congratulations to all the sponsors. The reason why we are here is because we share a passion. We share a passion for this nation, for this country. So what a terrific song that Isabella would sing, that we call Australia home. And we are inspired to that passion in different ways. Dr. Gomes spoke to me about his father. I've been inspired by family members. You all have a different reason for your vision and your passion for why you are here and why you think this is important. And the nuts and bolts are obvious. Cardiac disease, the biggest killer of men in this nation, up in the top 3 for women. And for regional Australians who live in places where they don't have these services. They don't have these services, and it's not as easy as getting on a bus or a plane to come away. It's days away. It is thousands of dollars to leave Cloncurry, where I'm from, to get to a specialist in Townsville, in Brisbane, in Toowoomba, wherever you may be going. So people just don't go. Dr. Gomes told me a terrific story when he was first surveying doctors about was this a service that would be required, and he asked how many patients they had and how many they referred to a specialist and how many they would refer if a truck pulled up in town. It was 3 times greater than the number of people who were being referred already because they just didn't bother. They knew that the cost or the time would prevent people from having life-saving medical attention. Extraordinary. What a vision. And what a vision from a man who was an engineer, an electrical engineer, before he became a medical specialist. What would have his vision been if he hadn't come from such a practical background? What about if he had been an accountant? Accountants are great. What if he'd been a butcher? But he was an electrical engineer, and so he had a view for a practical solution. I want to acknowledge Packard, who Dr. Gomes convinced to give him not just 1 but 3 of their trucks, 2 Kenworths and 1 DAF prime mover, and then turned a B double trailer combination into what is today literally a life-saving medical clinic on wheels. And when the Heart of Australia trucks are in and out Backtown, you can't miss it. I was in Roma recently and had a tour of number 2 of the vehicles. What an extraordinary setup. I had no idea what any of it did, but was delighted to see that there was a compact fishing rod tucked away in the truck outside. So it's not all serious business. My passion is for regional, rural and remote Australia, because I know that it is regional, rural and remote Australia that funds our nation, where we grow the food and fibre, where we mine the resources, where we have extraordinary tourism assets and we have terrific people. Innovation grows out of adversity and challenge, and we innovate every day in regional Australia. And so the job of providing critical health services is something that is an incredibly important part of my passion for this part of the country. So, as the Special Envoy, a role that still makes me smirk every time I say it because it sounds a little bit American, but it is an incredible privilege to be able to be a voice for a part of the nation that has very few voices. 7% of federal senators live in Northern Australia, 6% of federal members of parliament, 51% of the nation, 5.3% of the population, but we produce 11% of the GDP in Northern Australia. And in the last 2 weeks I have been all over the north with the Minister for Northern Australia, David Littleproud, to Townsville and Cairns, the obvious places, up to Moranbah and across to the Alice, Katherine, Darwin. You can smell the opportunity and the excitement in the air. Because the North is a place where, as a nation, we are quite rightly investing billions of dollars across portfolios, whether it be in defence, health, education, roads infrastructure, energy, water. And it is the role of the federal government to provide the infrastructure, the signals, to de-risk investment for private companies, private individuals and families to go north, to go west, and to continue building and powering this nation. I also chair currently an inquiry into the definition for meat, which has been incredibly interesting. And it is not only about protecting meat producers like beef and sheep and pork and all those sort of obvious meats, but in the Territory I met a group of remote Indigenous people who have a crocodile farm. And it is incredibly important to them that somebody protects the intellectual property of what they do, because it gives them an opportunity to stay on country, but to have the opportunity for jobs and generational investment and to stay on their land. So whilst the work of the Senate is not always well understood by our House of Reps colleagues, just ask them, it is important for reasons such as these. So there is a $5 billion Northern Australia Infrastructure Fund, which is de-risking investment, a $10 billion reinsurance pool, which is de-risking insurance in the north. We've spent $600 million on northern roads, because do you know that there are still unsealed roads in the north and the west that we've not quite got tar on? It means that the road between Normanton and Burketown through to the Tablelands was cut from January to June this year. And we've talked about the cost of airfares, though I do want to acknowledge the terrific support of Rex Airlines to the Heart of Australia project. But these are the sort of things that we need to do to invest in our nation and invest in the people. I have got lots more very interesting statistics here, but I'm not going to talk about any more because I want to talk about truck drivers. We discovered during COVID that Australia truly does run on the back of trucks. And truck drivers have the most appalling conditions in this land. In Queensland, we only have 21 dedicated truck stops where trucks can stop and check their loads and safely sleep at night. It doesn't seem unreasonable. They should have a toilet and a shower. That's one of the reasons why trucks are getting bigger and bigger, so that they can carry these amenities with them. They don't have the opportunity to eat terrifically well, and so they have to carry their meals with them. But it is these men, and occasionally women, who genuinely drive this nation. And it is an extraordinary tribute to that industry, to Ross Fraser from Fraser's Transport and Gary McMahon from the Queensland Transport Association. Gary's not here tonight. He's on his way to Winton for the Outback Festival and the reunion, truck drivers reunion out there. But they have funded 400 appointments for truck drivers to Heart of Australia. Of the 135 appointments that have been had already, there are a number that went straight to hospital. There are a number who discovered that they had life-threatening diseases. There were some who discovered that they needed to change their lives. And for one, like Troy Redmond from Fraser's, who was told he had to get serious about losing weight. And of course, he had a bit of a hard time from his mates as he started the lifestyle changes that would let that happen. But it has changed his life. It has changed the quality of life with his families. So federal funding for Heart of Australia, $12 million over 3 years, is due to expire soon. And so the senators here tonight, the members of Parliament, the Queensland members of Parliament, we will all start to form a Congo line, tapping on ministers' doors to ensure that this funding continues. And I encourage you to write, to ring, to email our officers to aid us in that support of demonstrating how critically important this is. The federal government also contributes $50 million to the Rural Generalist Training Scheme, which was just announced this year. There is a stronger rural health strategy which aims to increase the critical number of doctors and nurses outside capital cities, have increased the bulk billing rate for regional GPs and streamlining training. And critically for me in the north, the work of James Cook University. They have a 75% success rate of keeping the medical professionals that they train in regional, rural and remote Australia. 75%. There's not another university in the land that competes with that. And so I'm very supportive of their work. I thank everybody in the room for your shared passion, whether it be like mine, generally for regional, rural and remote Australia, whether it be for medicine, whether it be for Indigenous communities and the people who make up our nation. But I thank you all for being here. I thank you all for supporting this critically important facility, because by your support, you too save lives. Thank you, Dr. Gomes, for your vision. Good night.